The corridors of Citadel Station had never felt so long. Kong Jinho walked quickly, with Yuna and Minji close behind. Around them, beings of every species stopped and stared. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within minutes of leaving the chamber, every creature on the station knew what the humans had done. "Sir," Yuna said quietly, "we have a problem, I know." Jinho had already noticed the Corvallis soldiers gathering at the far end of the corridor. They were trying to look casual, but their weapons were visible. "They're blocking the path to our docking bay," Minji observed. Her voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "They won't attack us here," Jinho replied. "Too many witnesses. The Corvalli want to destroy us, but they want to do it properly. With ceremony. With the Council's blessing, and if you're wrong." Jinho almost smiled. "Then this will be a very short war." They changed direction, taking a longer route through the station's commercial district. Shops lined the walkways, selling goods from 1,000 worlds. Normally, humans could walk here freely. Today, merchants pulled their products inside as the delegation passed. Doors closed. Lights dimmed. Humanity was no longer welcome. "Lieutenant," Jinho said, "contact the horizon. Tell Captain SCO to prepare for immediate departure." "Already done, sir." "But there's another problem." Yuna handed him her communicator. "Corvalli warships are moving to surround our docking bay. They're not attacking yet, but they're blocking our exit path." Minji's face went pale. "They're going to trap us here." "No." Jinho read the message on the screen and felt something he had not felt in hours. Hope. "They're going to try." A new message appeared. From Admiral Taiho. "Package arriving in 15 minutes. Hold position. What does that mean?" Minji asked. Before Jinho could answer, a door opened beside them. A figure in silver robes stepped out. "Observer list of the Eldari Collective, Envoy Kong." Her voice was soft, almost musical. "Please, a moment of your time." Jinho glanced at Yuna. She shook her head slightly. But something in Liss's ancient eyes told him this was important. "Wait here," he told his team. 2 minutes. He followed Liss into a small room. It was empty except for 2 chairs and a window showing the stars. "Your declaration was unexpected," Liss said. She did not sit. "In 12,000 years of Council history, no minor species has ever declared war against a founding member. There's a first time for everything. Indeed." Liss studied him with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. "You know the Corvalli will not stop until humanity is destroyed. They have the ships. They have the soldiers. They have the industrial capacity to build more of both." "I know, and yet you declared war anyway." Jinho met her gaze. "What would you have done? If it was your people being taken? Your children being sold?" Liss was quiet for a moment. "The Eldari faced a similar choice long ago. We chose peace. We accepted losses. We survived." She paused. "But we have never forgotten the ones we abandoned. That weight never disappears. Then you understand." "I understand more than you know." Liss reached into her robes and produced a small data chip. "The Eldari Collective cannot officially support you. Our treaties with the Council forbid it. But I can offer you this. Intelligence on Corvalli military movements, medical supplies, and coordinates of 3 systems where human refugees can find sanctuary, no questions asked." Jinho took the chip carefully. "Why? Because the Council has become corrupt?" Liss's voice hardened. "We have watched the Corvalli enslave and destroy for centuries. We have watched the Council ignore their crimes because the Corvalli control trade routes and resources. Today you did what we were too afraid to do. You said no, and if we lose, then at least you will have fought. There is honor in that." Liss moved toward the door. "Go now. Your fleet is arriving." Jinho returned to his team. Yuna's eyes were wide. "Sir, you need to see this." They hurried to a viewing port. Through the thick glass, Jinho saw the stars and something else, ships, dozens of them. Human warships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding the Citadel Station, 57 vessels. Every combat ship Earth could spare, destroyers, cruisers, the flagship carrier. Unity. Admiral Taiho's voice crackled through every speaker in the station. Attention, Citadel Station. This is Admiral Beak Taiho of the United Earth Fleet. We are here to escort our diplomatic delegation home. Any interference will be answered with force. This is not a negotiation. The Corvallis ships hesitated. They had expected 3 humans alone. They had not expected this. The docking bay is clear, Una reported, checking her communicator. The Corvalli pulled back their soldiers. They moved quickly through the station. This time, no one blocked their path. The beings they passed watched with different expressions now. Not just hatred, something else. Fear, confusion, and in some eyes, a flicker of respect. The horizon was waiting. Captain SEO had the engines running before they were through the airlock. Within minutes, they were rising from the docking bay, surrounded by Earth's warships. Delegate Thresh is broadcasting demands, SEO reported from the bridge. He's ordering us to surrender and face council justice. Ignore him, Jinho replied. Through the viewport, he watched the Corvalli fleet. 20 ships. Enough to crush the horizon alone, but not enough to face 57. Human warships with nothing to lose. Thresh was still shouting threats as the human fleet turned and accelerated toward open space. He promised destruction. He promised extinction. He promised that humanity would regret this day for the rest of its very short existence. Jinho turned away from the viewport. Dr. Han Minji stood nearby, her face troubled. The Corvalli outnumber us 20-1, she said quietly. Their ships are larger. Their weapons are stronger. The Council will support them. On paper, we cannot win this war, I know. Then how do we survive? Jinho thought about the question. He thought about Earth, spinning blue and green in distant space. He thought about the colonies, full of families who had traveled across the stars for a new life. He thought about the children of the morning star still waiting to be found. They've never fought humans, he said finally. They conquered species that surrender when the odds are bad. They defeated enemies who calculate acceptable losses. They don't know what it means to face an enemy who refuses to give up. And if that's not enough? Jinho looked at Yuna, at Minji, at the crew working around them, humans, all of them. Far from home, surrounded by enemies, facing impossible odds. Then we make it enough, he said. Because there is no other choice. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, the Citadel station grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. The war had begun. The chamber waited in silence. High Arbiter Vaughn looked down at the human platform. His gray face showed nothing, but his voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Envoy Kang, the council has voted to proceed with judgment. You may make a final statement before we decide your species' fate. Jinho stood perfectly still. 300 species watched him. They expected surrender. They expected a desperate plea for mercy. Some of them were already preparing to divide human territories among themselves. They did not know what was coming. Honored Arbiter, Jinho said. Before the council passes judgment, I ask permission to present evidence of my own. Thresh stood up on his platform. This is a delay tactic. The humans have no evidence. They have only lies. The council will hear the human evidence, Vaughn decided. Envoy Khan, you may proceed. Jinho touched his communicator. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered. The Corvalli footage disappeared. New images took its place, a human colony ship burning in space. Bodies floating in the void. A Corvalli warship visible in the background, its weapons still firing. This is the transport vessel Morning Star, Jano said. His voice was calm but heavy. It was attacked 7 months ago while carrying families to the Hain colony. There were 412 people aboard. 340 of them were children. The footage changed. Security camera recordings from inside the ship. Corvalli soldiers breaking through doors. Families screaming. Soldiers dragging people away. The Corvalli did not destroy the Morning Star, they captured it. They took the passengers as prisoners. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. Others looked away from the images. This is manipulation, Thresh shouted. These images are false. The humans created them to gain sympathy. Jinho ignored him. The footage changed again. This time it showed a planet's surface. A settlement burning. Human bodies lying in streets. This is New Bizin colony. Population, 16,000. 8 months ago, Corvallis forces attacked without warning. They killed 8,400 people. They took the rest as prisoners. More footage. More death. More Corvallis soldiers laughing as they destroyed human lives. Hehain colony. 3,200 dead. The transport vessel Dawn's Light, 600 taken. The survey ship Pioneer, 42 researchers. All gone. The chamber had grown very quiet. Jinho's voice did not waver. We reported these attacks to the Galactic Council. 7 times. We provided evidence. We begged for help. We asked only for justice. He paused and looked directly at High Arbiter Vaughn. Do you know what the Council told us, Arbiter? They told us to be patient. They told us to accept losses for the sake of peace. They told us that the Corvallis were too important to offend. Vaughn said nothing, so we stopped asking. Jinho's voice hardened. The stations we destroyed were not mining outposts. They were military bases. They were holding 6,000 human prisoners. Our prisoners. Our people. The final footage appeared. Human soldiers breaching Corvallis cells. Prisoners being carried to safety. Children reunited with parents. Tears and relief and freedom. Admiral Taiho led the rescue operation. He freed 6,000 humans. 6,000 people who had been taken from their homes, their ships, their families. 6,000 people the Council told us to forget. Thresh was shaking with anger. This proves nothing. Even if prisoners existed, your attack was still illegal. You violated Corvallis territory. You killed Corvallis soldiers? Yes, Jinho said simply. We did. The chamber fell into shocked silence. We killed Corvallis soldiers because they stood between us and our people. We destroyed their bases because those bases held our children. We violated your laws because your laws protected the criminals and punished the victims. Jinho stepped to the edge of his platform. He looked up at the hundreds of species surrounding him. Some were hostile. Some were confused. A few, like observerless, were watching with something close to respect. The United Earth government has considered the Council's position carefully, Jinho announced. We have considered the accusations. We have considered the proposed punishment. And we have reached a decision. He straightened his shoulders. Humanity formally declares war on the Corvallis Empire. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the chamber exploded. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Platforms flashed with emergency signals. Thresh screamed something about destruction and revenge. Vaughn called for order but was ignored. Through it all, Jinho stood motionless. Eventually, the noise faded. Vaughn's voice cut through the chaos. Envoy Kang, you cannot declare war before the Council. This is unprecedented. This is unacceptable. We did not come seeking permission, Jinho replied. We came to inform you. You are a minor species, Thresh spat. You have been in space for less than a century. The Corvallis Empire has crushed civilizations older and stronger than yours. You will be destroyed within months. Perhaps? Jinho's face showed no fear. But we will not be destroyed quietly. And we will not be destroyed while our people remain in chains. The Council will not allow this, Vaughn declared. If you proceed with this war, humanity will face sanctions from every member species. You will be isolated. You will be blockaded. You will be treated as enemies of galactic peace. Jinho nodded slowly. Then so be it. We asked for peace. You gave us silence. We asked for justice. You gave us contempt. Now we will take what we need. He turned to face Thresh directly. Every human you stole will be returned. Every family you destroyed will be avenged. Every child you sold into slavery will be found. This is not a threat. It is a promise. Thresh's scales had turned pale. For the first time, something like doubt flickered in his eyes. "And to the rest of the council," Jinho continued, addressing the chamber, "we ask nothing from you. We do not want your help. We do not want your approval. We ask only that you stay out of our way." He stepped back onto his platform. "This session is over for the human delegation. Lieutenant Park, Dr. Han, we are leaving." Yuna and Minji followed him toward the exit. The chamber watched in stunned silence as 3 humans walked away from the most powerful assembly in the galaxy. Just before reaching the door, Jinho stopped and turned one final time. "You wanted to know what humans are capable of," he said quietly. "You will find out soon." The doors closed behind them. And across the galaxy the word spread. The humans had done the impossible. They had looked at the combined might of 300 species and declared war. Nothing would ever be the same. The Grand Rotunda was larger than any building on Earth. Kong Genho stood at the entrance and looked up. The chamber was shaped like a sphere, with platforms floating at every level. Each platform held a delegation from a different species. Some were massive, covered with dozens of representatives. Others were small, barely large enough for a single being. Humanity's platform was one of the smallest. It floated near the bottom, far from the center where the High Arbiter sat. "This way, Envoy." A council assistant guided them through the crowd. Beings of every shape and size moved around them. Some walked on 2 legs, some walked on 6. Some did not walk at all, but floated through the air like living clouds. None of them looked at the humans. With kindness, Jin Ho climbed onto humanity's platform with Yuna and Minji behind him. The surface was cold metal. There were no chairs. They were expected to stand. "The session has already begun," Minji whispered. "They did not wait for us." In the center of the chamber, High Arbiter Vaughn raised one of his 4 arms. He was Palarin, a species known for their strict devotion to law and order. His skin was gray and smooth like stone. His eyes showed no emotion. "The council recognizes Delegate Thresh of the Corvalli Empire," Vaughn announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. A platform near the top began to glow. Standing on it was a Corvalli tall, covered in dark scales with a long neck and sharp teeth. Delegate Thresh looked down at the human delegation like a predator watching prey. "Honored members of the council," Thresh began. His voice was smooth and confident. "I bring evidence of a terrible crime. The humans have attacked our peaceful mining operations near the Vega system. 12,000 innocent Corvalli workers are dead. Their blood stains human hands." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed burning stations. Bodies floating in space. Ships with human markings firing weapons. Jinho watched the footage carefully. It was good work. The images looked real, but he noticed details that did not fit. The ships were wrong models. The attack patterns were not human tactics. The Corvalli had created this footage to fool the council. "The humans are a violent species," Thresh continued. "They have been members of this council for less than 50 years, yet they have already shown their true nature. They are warmongers. They are murderers. They cannot be trusted." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jinho heard words in languages he did not understand, but the tone was clear. Agreement. Anger. Hatred. "I demand justice," Thresh finished. "The humans must surrender their military. They must give up their colonies. They must be contained before they destroy us all." The chamber erupted in noise. Species shouted their support. Platforms glowed as delegates called for votes. Humanity's small platform remained dark and silent. "The council will consider the Corvalli proposal," High Arbiter Vaughn declared. "Does the human delegation wish to respond?" Every eye in the chamber turned to Jinho. He felt the weight of 300 species staring at him. They expected him to beg, to apologize, to accept whatever punishment the council decided. He stepped forward calmly. "I wish to speak," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. The chamber fell silent. They were surprised. They had expected anger or fear. They got neither, Honored Arbiter. Jinho began. I have seen the evidence presented by Delegate Thresh. I have some questions. Thresh's eyes narrowed. Questions? You dare question the testimony of the Corvalli Empire? I question the timeline. Juno kept his voice steady. The footage shows an attack on mining stations. But those stations were built only 6 months ago? Why would the Corvalli build mining stations in a system so close to human territory? We have the right to build wherever we choose, Thresh snapped. Of course. But records show that no mining permits were filed for those locations. No trade routes were established. No ore was ever transported from those stations. Junho paused. Because they were not mining stations. Whispers spread through the chamber. Vaughn raised a hand for silence. What are you suggesting, Envoy? I am suggesting that the Council investigate before passing judgment. I am suggesting that the Corvalli evidence may not tell the complete story, Thresh laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. This is typical human behavior. When caught, they lie. When confronted, they make excuses. They are children playing at civilization. They do not deserve a place among us. The chamber rumbled with agreement. Jinho felt Yuna tense beside him. Minji's face was pale. Perhaps, a new voice said, we should hear both sides before deciding. The voice came from a platform high above. A figure sat there alone, wrapped in silver robes. Observer Liss of the Eldari Collective. Her species was ancient, older than the Council itself. They rarely spoke in sessions. Observer Liss, Vaughn acknowledged with a bow. You wish to contribute? I wish to note inconsistencies. Liss did not stand. Her voice was soft but carried through the entire chamber. The Corvalli footage shows human ship models that were retired from service 8 years ago. The attack patterns do not match any recorded human military tactics. And the system in question has been the subject of 17 complaints from human authorities over the past 3 years. Complaints about Corvalli vessels attacking human ships. The chamber went quiet. Thresh's smile faded. The observer is mistaken. Those complaints were investigated and dismissed. They were dismissed without investigation, Liss corrected. I have the records. For a moment, hope flickered in Jinho's chest. Perhaps the truth would matter. Perhaps the Council would listen. This is irrelevant, Thresh declared loudly. The humans admitted to destroying our stations. They admitted to killing our people. Whatever happened before does not excuse their crime. Delegate Thresh is correct, Vaughn said slowly. Regardless of past disputes, the humans have confessed to military action. The Council must respond. I call for immediate judgment, Thresh demanded. No more delays, no more human tricks. Let us vote now. Vaughn looked around the chamber. Does the Council support immediate judgment? Platforms began to glow. Green for yes, red for no. Jinho watched the light spread across the chamber. Green, green, green. Everywhere. Green dot. The vote was overwhelming. The Council would judge humanity today. There would be no investigation, no chance to present evidence. The decision had already been made. Jinho looked at Yuna. She met his eyes and gave a small nod. Diplomacy had failed. He touched the communicator, hidden in his sleeve, and sent a single signal to Admiral Taiho. Then he straightened his shoulders and faced the chamber. If they would not listen to words, he would give them something else entirely. The message came at midnight. Ship time. Kang Jinho stood alone in his quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Horizon, reading the words on his screen for the 3rd time. The Galactic Council demanded humanity's presence. They used words like immediate and mandatory and consequences. But Jinho had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He knew what these words really meant. They meant trouble. Sir? Lieutenant Park Yuna's voice came through the door. May I enter? Come in, Yuna. The young officer stepped inside. She was small but carried herself like someone twice her size. Jinho had chosen her as his aide because she never panicked. In the world of alien politics, panic got people killed. You received the summons, she said. It was not a question. The Corvalli have accused us of attacking their mining outpost near Viga. They claim we killed 12,000 of their workers. Jinho turned from the screen. The Council wants to judge us. Yuna's face remained calm, but her hands tightened into fists. We did not attack first. They know this. Everyone knows this. What everyone knows and what the Council accepts are two different things. Jinho walked to the viewport and stared at the stars. Humanity had traveled among them for less than 50 years. To the ancient species of the galaxy, humans were still children. Loud, violent, emotional children who needed to be controlled. The Corvalli had been raiding human colony ships for 8 months. They took prisoners. They took supplies. They burned what they could not take. When humanity complained to the Council, they were told to be patient. When humanity demanded action, they were told to accept small losses for the sake of peace. Humanity had not accepted. Admiral Beak Taiho had led a strike force to the Corvalli outposts 3 weeks ago. But those outposts were not mining stations. They were military bases. They held human prisoners in underground cells. Taiho's forces freed 6,000 people and destroyed the bases completely. Now the Corvalli wanted revenge. And the Council would give it to them. "Call Dr. Han," Jinho said. "We need to prepare." Dr. Han Minji arrived within the hour. She was the ship's xenopolitical advisor, which meant she understood how aliens thought. She was also the only person aboard who had attended a council session before. "It will be hostile," she warned. She sat across from Jinho in the small meeting room while Yuna stood by the door. The Corvalli are a founding member of the Council. They have allies everywhere. They have trade agreements with over 200 species. And humanity? We have been members for 43 years. We have few friends and many who distrust us. Minji pulled up a holographic display showing the council chamber. 300 species will be watching. Most have already decided we are guilty. Then why attend? Yuna asked. Because refusing would be worse, Jinho answered. They would use our absence as proof of guilt. They would authorize military action against Earth itself. Minji nodded. The Corvalli want us stripped of everything. Our colonies, our fleet, our right to travel beyond our own system. They want to put humanity in a cage. The room fell silent. Jinho thought about the colonies. New Bizen, where his sister lived with her children. Han Colony, named after the ancient temple, where farmers grew rice in alien soil. The transport Morning Star, which had carried 340 children to new homes before the Corvalli intercepted it. Those children were still missing. Sir, Yuna's voice broke the silence. A secure transmission from Admiral Taiho. Jinho accepted the message on his personal device. The Admiral's face appeared, weathered and tired. Behind him, Jinho could see the bridge of a warship. Jinho, I know you're heading to the council. Before you go, you need to see this. The image changed. Jinho watched footage captured by helmet cameras during the raid on the Corvalli bases. He saw cells filled with human prisoners. He saw bodies. He saw children huddled in corners, starving and terrified. He saw Corvalli soldiers laughing as they dragged a young woman down a corridor. We found evidence of 17 raids against human vessels, Taiho continued. We recovered 6,000 survivors. But we also found records of those who did not survive. The Corvalli sold them. To who, we don't know yet. But we will find out. The footage ended. Jinho's hands were shaking. I'm sending you everything we have, Taiho said. Use it however you need. And Jinho, the Admiral's eyes were hard. Don't let them make us into villains. We saved our people. That is not a crime. The transmission ended. Minji looked pale. Yuna's jaw was tight with anger. Jinho stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Dr. Han, he said finally. You advised diplomacy. I did, and if diplomacy fails? Minji hesitated. Then we have no options. The Council's word is law. If they rule against us, every species in the galaxy will be authorized to act against humanity. Jinho stood and walked to the viewport again. The Citadel station was visible now, a massive structure hanging in the void. Thousands of ships surrounded it. Inside, 300 species waited to judge humanity for the crime of protecting its own people. He thought about his sister. About the children of the morning star, about every human who had been taken, sold, or killed while the galaxy looked away. "Prepare the delegation," he said quietly. "We will attend the council and the admiral's footage?" Yuna asked. Jinho did not answer immediately. He watched the citadel grow larger as the horizon approached. Somewhere in that station, the Corvalli delegate was preparing to demand humanity's destruction. Somewhere, 300 species were preparing to let it happen. "Keep it ready," he said. "We may need it before this is over." The horizon entered the citadel's docking bay, and Kang Jinho, envoy of Earth, prepared to face a galaxy that had already decided he was guilty. 6 months had passed since the declaration. The Corvalli had expected humanity to hide. They expected defensive positions, fortified colonies, desperate last stands. They expected fear. They were wrong. Admiral Beak Taiho stood on the bridge of the carrier Unity, watching Corval Prime grow larger in the viewport. The Corvalli homeworld, the heart of their empire. The last place they expected to see human ships. "All squadrons report ready," his first officer announced. "Assault teams are standing by. Enemy fleet status? Scattered. They pulled most of their ships to attack our outer colonies. They never thought we would come here." Taiho allowed himself a small smile. That was the human advantage. Everyone expected them to think like other species, to protect territory, to fight defensively, to value survival above all else, but humans did not fight to survive. They fought to win, begin the operation. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace like wolves falling upon sleeping prey. 43 warships against the skeleton defense force left behind. The Corvalli scrambled to respond, but it was already too late. Human fighters swarmed the orbital defenses. Destroyers targeted communication arrays, cutting Corval Prime off from the rest of the Empire. And in the chaos, 12 troop transports descended toward the planet's surface. Their target, the Central Detention Complex, the largest slave-holding facility in Corvalli space. Captain Park Yuna led the assault team. She had traded her diplomatic uniform for combat armor. The same hands that once carried datapads now carried a rifle. 30 seconds to landing, the pilot announced. Yuna checked her squad. 20 soldiers. All volunteers. All knew they might not come back. "Remember the mission," she said through the comm. "Prisoners first. Everything else is secondary. We didn't come here to conquer. We came to bring our people home." The transport hit the ground hard. The doors opened. Yuna was the first one out. The detention complex was massive, a fortress of black metal surrounded by guard towers. Corvalli soldiers were already rushing to defensive positions. They had never faced a ground assault on their homeworld. They had never needed to. "Squad 2, take the west entrance. Squad 3, disable the towers. Squad 1, with me?" Yuna moved fast, using cover expertly. Human soldiers were smaller than Corvalli, weaker in direct combat. But they were faster, more adaptable, and they had trained for this moment for months. The first guards fell before they understood what was happening. Yuna's squad breached the main entrance and pushed inside. The corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lights. Alarms screamed. Somewhere deeper in the complex, prisoners were shouting. "Contact left," someone called. Yuna spun and fired. 2 Corvalli dropped. They pushed deeper. Cell blocks lined the walls, filled with beings from dozens of species. Not just humans. The Corvalli had been busy. "Open the cells," Yuna ordered. "All of them. Captain, we're here for human prisoners." "We're here for prisoners." "All of them. Open the cells." The locks released. Beings stumbled out, blinking in the light. Some were weak, barely able to walk. Others were stronger, their eyes burning with hatred for their captors. "Follow my soldiers," Yuna told them. "Transports are waiting. You're going home." They found the human prisoners 3 levels down. 8,000 people, packed into cells meant for half that number. When the doors opened and they saw human faces, human uniforms, human flags on the armor, some of them started crying. "We came back for you," Yuna said to them. We always come back. Above the planet, Admiral Taiho watched the battle unfold. The Corvallis defense fleet was broken. Their orbital stations were burning. Their communications were dead. "Admiral," his first officer called. "Corvallis reinforcements are arriving. 40 ships. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. Time to extraction. Ground teams need 15 more minutes." It would be close, but Taiho had planned for this. "All ships, defensive formation around the transports. We hold until our people are aboard. Not 1 second less." The human fleet moved like a living thing. Every captain knew their role. Every ship knew its position. They had drilled this maneuver 100 times. Now they would do it for real. The Corvallis reinforcements arrived in a wave of fire. Energy weapons lit up the void. Human ships rocked with impacts. 2 destroyers fell out of formation, burning, but the line held. "Transports are lifting off," the first officer reported. 12 minutes to orbit. Hold the line." Another destroyer fell. Then a cruiser. Human ships were dying, but they did not retreat. They did not scatter. They stood between the transports and the enemy and refused to move. The transports reached orbit. 40,000 freed prisoners were packed inside, along with the assault teams that had saved them. The mission was complete. "All ships, prepare for jump," Taiho ordered. "We're going home." The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind the burning wreckage of their enemies and a message that would spread across the galaxy. Humanity had struck the Corvallis homeworld. Humanity had freed their prisoners. Humanity had won. On the horizon, Kang Jinho received the news with quiet satisfaction. The broadcast was already spreading. Images of freed slaves, videos of human soldiers opening cell doors, reports of the Corvallis' defeat. "3 species have contacted us," Dr. Han Minji reported. She looked tired but hopeful. "They want to discuss trade agreements, quietly, away from council eyes." "Who?" "The Vifini. The Broken Chain Coalition, and ... She paused. "The Eldari Collective, officially." Jinho raised an eyebrow. "Observer lists?" She delivered the message personally. She said the old order is cracking. Species that have been silent for centuries are starting to ask questions, starting to wonder if the council really protects them or just protects the powerful. It was beginning. Jinho had hoped for this, but he had not expected it so soon. The Corvallis had built their empire on fear. But fear only worked when no one stood against it. Now someone had. "Sir," Yuna's voice came through the com. She was still aboard one of the transports, still in her armor, still covered in dust from Corval Prime. "We found them. The children from the Morning Star, 42 of them. They're alive." Jinho closed his eyes. For a moment, he could not speak. "They're scared," Yuna continued. "They've been through things no child should experience. But they're alive, and they're asking to go home." "Tell them they will," Jinho said finally. "Tell them humanity came for them, and we will always come for them." The broadcast continued spreading. Across the galaxy, species watched humans do the impossible. They watched a minor civilization strike at the heart of a major power. They watched slaves freed by soldiers who had traveled across the stars to save them, and they began to wonder what else might be possible. Delegate Thresh watched the broadcast from his damaged command ship, hiding in deep space while his fleet regrouped. His scales were gray with shock. His eyes were empty. "They attacked our homeworld," he whispered to no one. "They attacked our homeworld." He had called humanity primitives, children, insects to be crushed. He had never imagined they would do this. No species did this. No species fought this way, but humans did on the Unity. Admiral Taiho stood beside the viewport, watching stars slide past. The war was not over. The Corvallis would regroup. They would strike back. There would be more battles, more losses, more sacrifice, but something had changed. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and they were afraid. Jinho joined him at the viewport. "They wanted to know what humanity was capable of," Taiho said quietly. Jinho nodded. thinking of the freed prisoners, the children returning home, the species reaching out in hope. Now they know. The fleet jumped toward Earth, behind them. The galaxy watched and waited. The age of humanity had begun.